On the streets of Athens, nearly 2,500 years ago, Socrates began asking questions to his fellow citizens about justice, beauty, truth, love, and friendship, nudging them into thinking, challenging their certainty, sparking their curiosity. His questions, however, got him into a lot of trouble. Accused of corrupting the youth and offending the gods, he was sentenced to death. He accepted his fate without resistance, but maintained that all he had been trying to do was to reveal people's opinions to themselves and each other, so they could examine them and think them through together. What he had wanted was to make friends of all citizens. Not long after Socrates, Aristotle writes, "No one would want to live without a friend." Friends wish the best for each other, and we all need someone who wishes the best for us, and someone we can wish the very best for. To be a friend is to care for the well-being of one's friend, to carry goodwill in one's heart and mind towards those we call friends. Friends treat each other right. So Aristotle concludes friendship is more important than justice. Where there's friendship, no justice is needed, for we would never act unjustly towards our friends. Friendship, he says, is the glue that holds a political community together. Fast forward to the 20th century. Hannah Arendt, a German Jewish woman who escaped persecution from the Nazi regime twice, first to Paris, then to New York, writes in a letter to a friend in 1947 that nothing in the world is as important as friends. Arendt was an exceptionally well-read, original thinker, a now renowned political theorist and philosopher who had a lot to say about the state of our world and the dark times that sometimes appear to swallow it, seemingly out of nowhere. She praised friendship privately and publicly, and argued that true humaneness is exemplified in the dialogue of friendship, that friendship is the political equalization between people. Those who knew her claimed she had a genius for friendship, a genius I believe we desperately need. The political aspect of friendship that the great minds of the past recognized and emphasized is not intuitive or self-evident for us anymore. We can easily acknowledge the importance of friendship for us individually, but we rarely reflect on its political significance. Nowadays, we tend to think of friendship as private and intimate, and mostly along the lines of sameness, that to be friends, we need to be or think alike. But is that really the case? And how alike exactly do we need to be? I come from a country that doesn't exist anymore. Former Yugoslavia was a socialist republic, a patchwork place comprised of different regions, nationalities, cultures, traditions, religions, unique in its composition and political approach. Growing up, I remember vividly how our tiny place burst at its seams, with our neighbors, our friends' friends, day after day, young and old, seated in our kitchen, discussing for hours on end everything they thought was going wrong with our country, our city, our community, what needed to change, what could be done. Times were tough and the future uncertain. Rarely did any of them agree on the source of our economic hardships, whether as children were learning the right things in the right way, whether our leaders were making good decisions and truly had the people's best interest at heart, whether they had too little or too much power. Fierce and fiery debates, loud and passionate arguments, followed by food, laughter, music, hugs, and good nights, until the next day, when they'd come and visit again. We were a vastly diverse bunch, a small collection of the rich variety of Yugoslav people, a mix of different ethnicities, occupations, interests, beliefs. No one at that table was or thought the same. But we all wanted to speak to each other and hear what the others had to say. None of us knew everything, but all of us knew something, and we tried to make sense of the world together. The more we discussed, the more we learned. The more we learned, the more we understood. The more we understood, the more we grew together. We discovered that our differences didn't undermine, didn't divide us. They drew us closer, connecting, relating, teaching us about each other. So when the time came and our country split into factions, with a conflict of interest so deep they couldn't speak to each other anymore, couldn't find a way forward for us together, we held on tighter to our readiness, our willingness to be friends, determined to prove what we had learned to be true, that there is no idea, no belief, no argument more important, more relevant than for us to be friends. That losing an argument would not and could not ever be as painful as losing our friends. We couldn't stop the war from unfolding, so we watched it unfold, with our differences in the spotlight, misrepresented, overemphasized, weaponized, portrayed as insurmountable and unbridgeable. Suddenly, we were expected to believe that our friends had become our enemies. A story that thankfully didn't match our experience, didn't reflect our reality. A story instrumentalized by someone else to someone else's end. But we could at least refuse to become the means to that end. We couldn't have known that the time we had spent arguing, exploring our differences, navigating our disagreements with patience and generosity would lead to a bond strong enough to withstand pressure, polarization, and division. A bond that wouldn't break when put to the test. We compromised on many things, but never on our friendship, the pursuit of understanding, the joy of togetherness, the delight we had uncovered in our differences. How fortunate we truly were to have a shared understanding, a shared story, a shared sense of the world only became clear once we together, with our friendship, outlived our country. We do not need to think or be alike to be friends. Friendship has the power to bind what is not alike with equality. It is the freest human bond, a choice. Hannah Arendt recognized friendship's political significance in its capacity to embrace difference. She found in friendship evidence of our ability to look beyond status, faith, nationality, or any other form of membership, and to draw out the distinct, irreplaceable uniqueness of a person and the how and why they see the world the way they do. What we do have to have in common to become friends is openness, curiosity, the willingness to think for ourselves and to think with, not against each other. We need to be willing to think things through together, to ask more, listen more, understand better by assuming less. In many respects, just like Socrates, his ambition to make friends of all citizens was destined to fail because no one can make us friends unless we want to be. Unless we are ready to encounter each other in all our distinctiveness with curiosity. Unless we are ready to have our thinking challenged, tested, and maybe, just maybe, have our minds changed by seeing the world through someone else's eyes. Something that is tremendously difficult to achieve in the first place, but especially through a screen. Friends we are now accustomed to believe are just one click away, and they all fit into the palm of our hand. And so we often sit, each at our own table, consuming rather than experiencing our friends, feeling estranged, dissatisfied, and lonely. Have we lost the art and beauty of friendship? We are certainly missing out on its depths, on the presence of others in all their splendidly complex existence, on messy and challenging but real conversations. Perspectives that are not aligned with our own are now quickly dismissed, devalued, discarded, along with them the person that holds them. But friendship is a sense of wonder about the other that is not like me, an aspiration to understand, a process of discovery, of seeing the world anew. It requires courage, courage to have our shortcomings and imperfections revealed, exposed, to admit our mistakes, to ask for forgiveness, to confront friction and conflict with an unwavering resolution to be and to remain friends, to progress together. Friendship grows with our commitment to show up time and time again, no matter the circumstance, occasionally to uncomfortable uncertainty about what we will find, what we will learn about each other, and through each other about ourselves and the world we live in. True humaneness, as Hannah Arendt says, is indeed exemplified in the dialogue of friendship, because it asks of us not to be alike, but to be who we are, and to welcome each other, not despite of, but because of our difference. Understood in such a way, friendship is the most precious common good, an interest common to us all, and we all have the power of friendship, the power to make each other feel at home in a strange and confusing world, the power to cultivate humaneness. Thank you.